Welcome to today's Cake DeFi Twitter space happening every Tuesday. Today we are slightly later than normal. Reason, u-zyn and myself. So for those of you that don't know, u-zyn is my co-founder, CTO in the company. He and I had very first physical presentation, in-person presentation here in Singapore. In this case, it was for NUS, the National University for Singapore, for the business and computer science department. Was quite interesting. It's been quite some time that I actually did a physical presentation, talked about what I see as quite interesting in the blockchain space, various blockchain applications. Obviously, we talked about cryptocurrencies, DeFi. We spoke about the company, Cake DeFi. What do we do? We talked about NFTs, the metaverse. We talked about DeFi chain. Yeah, it was quite an interesting one. I talked more about the business cases and obviously a bit on the business from our side, and u-zyn spoke about the tech side. And so since this was a fixed schedule, and it was really completely at the same time as normally we do our Twitter spaces, I had to postpone the Twitter space, and so it's happening way later. It's been a super long day from my end today. It's 10 p.m. here, and the day has been going since early morning. So yeah, it was quite some stuff to do, but yeah, it's also super nice, super fun. So I'm not complaining. Main thing today, I don't have too many company updates. Actually, also the questions weren't really. I think there were not too many company questions that I saw when I asked what questions do you want the team and myself to answer. Really, there's not many updates. We haven't heard anything on the BaFin front. Still waiting to see a bit of a reply. We are looking into various solutions that we can proactively do without actually hearing from BaFin. So we're evaluating them with the lawyers to see what's possible there. Again, I'm 100% confident we can get a solution that works for the company, works for the customers, works for BaFin, which is since BaFin hasn't communicated anything with us, we need to figure out what BaFin actually wants. So nothing on that front. I think on the product side, there was a lot of things where the team has just been kind of cleaning up on stuff and working a bit behind the scenes. So you're probably not going to see too many things of that. One thing I do want to mention here, though, is next week there's Chinese New Year. For those in the Western world who are not too familiar with that, Chinese New Year in the Asian culture is really the same as Christmas or that sort, whatever religion you're part of or whatever kind of holiday you're celebrating during that last 2 weeks of the year. And that's kind of Chinese New Year is very resemblance in the Asian culture. So next week, a lot of the Asian team members, especially those that are celebrating Chinese New Year, are taking the week off, or actually it's public holidays anyways. So they're going to have the week off. Obviously, the European side of the team or the international side, also in Asia, the international side is going to be at work. But just expect that around we're going to be half-staffed for the next week. Shouldn't have any, you shouldn't feel that in any form, but maybe if there are certain things where maybe a withdrawal or customer success ticket takes maybe slightly longer, just understand next week why this is happening. Also, yeah, that is important. We're looking into the time for the Twitter space next week, but I think we're not gonna change anything there. I think that should be staying. So I'm gonna do this as normal, regular time because I think that's absolutely fine. So yeah, shouldn't have any effect there. But other than that, not any update that I see on the company side. Fabio, am I missing anything? Any questions or anything else that you have seen discussed regarding the company on Telegram or on social media?
Hi, greetings from the Netherlands. It's early in the day still for me, 3 in the afternoon. The only thing I would add there is you might have seen a few convenience upgrades on the site, mainly focused on mobile. And this is a little bit of the trend that you will see, that the mobile application will become mightier and more powerful, and with lots of convenience upgrades. And a few of them are already launched this week, like copy to clipboard functions, exporting functions, and so on. and probably this trend will continue a little bit. And maybe one other thing specific to product, if you are a masternode owner, so if you own more than 20,000 DFI on the Cake website, you are eligible to vote. And until now, this process was done mainly via email. Not to promise anything, but we are working on a solution that is done natively on the website. This makes things for you and both for us as a company a lot easier and more fluid. And not promising anything. Maybe we are ready for the next voting cycle. We're working on that. Other than that, I don't have anything to add on the product side.
Cool. Yeah. In case there's anything product related that jumps up, just maybe tweet at me, and then I'm happy to look into it. And if I want to answer the question, I'm definitely going to answer it. Sometimes I get some very random or sometimes very specific questions that I just either because they are too personal or because they are too specific to the business, and I just don't want to answer them. Yeah, because they are way too specific on certain things. Then I try to kind of wrap them a bit in a more broader kind of sense. So I hope you also understand it. Great. Then with that, maybe let's talk a bit about general markets. I mean, obviously, we have seen a massive movement over the past week. We have an important day coming up tomorrow. Let's see what the Fed is going to announce. Do you want to summarize a bit the last week from how you experienced it, what you saw in the community, and then maybe also a bit the community sentiment? I mean, I always jokingly say when Fabio is happy during the daily stand-ups, it is because the community is not all too unhappy. And if Fabio is really cranky and angry during the stand-ups, I know it's because the community lashed out on him. But it was kind of okay, I felt, over the past week. I don't think it was the best week, but I think it was okay. But is this just my perception, or how was it in general? I mean, just for a reference, a week ago, Bitcoin was still off 40,000. Yeah, we're about 15% higher than today. I think we were at around 42, 43,000. Bitcoin now is at 36,000. So about if you compare it from there, 15 to 20% sell-off. I think DeFi chain held up really nicely. Ethereum had a bit of a stronger sell-off, and some of the other altcoins also quite some strong sell-off. But share a bit about the sentiment, share a bit what's been happening, and then we'll discuss how could this kind of progress from here.
Yeah, I just shared a tweet within the Twitter space. So if you look on top of the Twitter space, you can see a tweet I just shared, and this is a meme that summarizes the week a little bit for me. Like we had a big sell-off, and expectations for January were a lot higher than where right now. But the funny thing to me is when you compare this to the last sell-off in May or other dips before, there was a lot more fear and a lot more panic in the market. And I guess people are kind of battle hardened and kind of used to the volatility, or some of them at least. And instead of experiencing extreme fear, they just don't care. So, and this is what is reflected within our own community or within social media as well. Like if you compare our Telegram, just the volume on messages, we are down more than 80%. So in December, we had like 3,500 messages a day within one chat, one language, and now it's down to 350 a day. So people are just not as much interacting, as involved in the market. They kind of just don't care. Lots of them, most actually didn't sell if you look at polls that bigger influencers make. There is certainly, maybe for the newer people that joined in 2021, most of them are like neutral or a little bit underwater with these price levels. And maybe there's some slight panic or some slight unease, some uncomfort. But for the larger part of the community, especially people that joined the market earlier, they just seem to not care.
Yeah, very interesting. I still think though that and I mean I made this my personal Twitter where I said what would be the Twitter price that you would really kind of start questioning your decisions in the past. I also saw you answering there. I think your answer was the 200-week average, right? I think that was kind of your, or I think 25,000. I can't remember what you commented on. Yeah. I think, and I just want to highlight that, right? The majority of people there really discussed that. I think at $20,000 price for Bitcoin, which is at the moment the 200-week average, that if we drop below that, they would really start, thinking about certain decisions they made. So I do want to highlight, in case we see prices to go lower, and to be frank here, I wouldn't be all too surprised if we're kissing the 30,000 a week ago. I have to admit, I was really surprised to see that push down. I really didn't expect that. I really didn't see any reasons for the price to get pushed down. And I think people really get scared at the moment, either because of the Ukraine topic with Russia, maybe the Fed being extra strict tomorrow, being extra pessimistic, and I mean, could be, right? But so all those reasons kind of tie in there a bit, and then traditional markets, especially tech, selling off aggressively. The Peloton story is just insane to consider that the Peloton share price right now is exactly the same price as pre-COVID, so 2 years ago. Imagine this, right? The company goes up by like 5, 6x and drops everything down again. And then, so with that, a lot of other companies got involved in that as well. So their crypto prices obviously got hammered down. I didn't expect it, but at the moment, I would probably be a bit more on the cautious side. I wouldn't be all too surprised, even though right now we're at over 36,000. I wouldn't be all too surprised if we didn't kiss the 30,000 mark. But so just remember, prices tend to go a route where like people really start freaking out, and that could be that we're hitting the 20,000. I don't expect that, but yeah, just kind of keep this a bit in your kind of the back of your mind. And yeah, looking at the behavior that we have seen, especially over the past couple of days, also over the weekend by our customers, it was just very impressive to see how long-term focused a lot of our customers are. Many customers actually started adding funds, started buying the dip. Obviously, they're massively in plus right now with 10% plus from the bottom. So very interesting behavior in comparison to what I see outside in the markets. Fabio, do you want to add anything there or anything from your side?
Yep. I think the levels that I'm currently most excited about, or I don't know, most anxious about, are like if we make a lower low around 28,000 or 29,000. These are the levels that lots of traders watch, and so people said they would consider selling if we really make a lower low. And I always try to. We talked about this briefly in the last spaces last week, where when you imagine the point of maximum pain, where like most of the people are underwater, where we broke an uptrend, where we make a lower low. There is where the panic starts to set in, and where people really question their decisions. And as you mentioned just now, I think it is likely, or it is probable, that we reach a point of maximum and over, I don't know, maybe the coming weeks or months before the market actually returns. But I'm very, very certain, like nothing changed, especially if you have a more traditional approach to the markets where you just buy and hold and dollar cost average in. These levels are actually kind of nice to get in. You get the same levels as end of 2020, beginning of 2021. So if you were accumulating during 2021, you get some nice prices now, a pretty nice discount. And I guess lots of our customers are using the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely looks like that. What are the events? So what are kind of the if-then scenarios that are being discussed on social? I mean, I voiced my opinion on what are the 3 events that I would like to see for prices to go up again. One is the Fed turning into a bullish scenario again. The other one is a large institution signaling strong Bitcoin support. My most likely one is Tether, but let's see. And then the last one would be a Bitcoin spot ETF. These would be kind of the 3 things that I would kind of want to see for a turnaround. And then maybe on the way down, like obviously the Ukraine topic, I think that is a key topic to watch at the moment and could take out some risk affinity going forward. Obviously, the other one is in generally the Fed is extra fear coming in. So these are all some key things. But what other topics do you see being discussed on social in the various communities? Yeah.
Yeah, especially the first point you made. I think there is most of the discussion is around that point, and this is just the Fed has 8 meetings a year. I put all of them into my calendar just in case. And of course, they said they're gonna raise interest rates, and everybody is expecting that. Now the question is this already priced in? What will happen if they take a step back and they say, okay, we're not going to do it? What happens if they say, okay, we're actually going to do it? So I think the meeting is tonight somewhere, European time, or tomorrow morning, US time, I think. And I guess this will probably in the short term have the most impact. Whatever Jerome Powell says, maybe it has an impact, maybe it hasn't. Maybe it's priced in, maybe it's not. And this is the big discussion around that point. And the other 2 things that you mentioned, I guess it's pretty quiet when discussing stock as a spot ETF. I guess everybody has already given up on that and thinks maybe it's not happening in the short term. Other points than that, funny for me is at least the big influencers I follow, just to name a few of them. Let's say Plan B, Bob Lucas, and TechDev52. These are like really big hopium dealers. So they talk a lot about 6-figure Bitcoin prices, and bull market is still intact. And I saw a lot of saying sorry a little bit, but sticking with their sentiment or with their calls. So they said, yeah, of course, nobody's 100% right, but lots of them still feel that the thesis of us going into six figures is still intact. It will just take a longer time, and that maybe the 4-year cycles are broken, or maybe not. Maybe they're extended. This is also a big part of the discussion. And I guess what for me, the takeaway for me is it's just not that easy. For me, I was a big believer in 4-year cycles, in lengthening cycles, and diminishing returns, and all these theses. But in the end, we just need to say all models are there to be broken, and nothing is a rule them all solution. And now, for me, I'm a little bit disappointed that we are not in the six figures now. But sometimes it's just not that easy as some people expect it to be, I guess.
Did you see the McDonald's tweet?
Yes, they're really. I think they're not hiring anymore. Or what did they say?
I mean, let me just pull up the tweet. So the McDonald's tweeted, that was on the 25th, 5:27 a.m. my time here in Singapore. So, yeah, that was like 24th, so Monday 24th evening Europe time, and afternoon on Monday in the US East Coast time. They tweeted, "How are you doing, people who run crypto Twitter accounts?" And man, I really highly recommend you actually go to the tweet. I felt it was very creative. First of all, for McDonald's to do that, I thought was outstanding. Whoever is that guy there or girl there, man, fantastic work. Just kind of for reference, I mean, they got over 100,000 likes. And if you look at the other kind of tweets, I mean, they get like 1 or 2, 3, 4,000 likes, sometimes 10,000 likes. So social media wise, really, really good. But then when you look at the interaction that they had, I mean, literally anyone that has like a large Twitter account on the crypto side kind of interacted. Binance interacted with them, Michael Saylor. Then there was a very interesting one with Coinbase that was super nice. And I mean, literally any exchange, any kind of platform. It was really, really like great to see CoinMarketCap. And it was very, very, very creative. And I mean, yeah, I thought that was I really, I mean, kudos to McDonald's, and obviously, yeah, I thought it was touche.
I shared the tweet here within our space for everybody that wants to look at it. It's on top of the Twitter space if you open your Twitter.
How would you judge Bukele, El Salvador president? There was this one tweet, can't remember what was his exact wording, talking about, wait, let me just pull that up. Give me just a second. What did he say there? Something about go back and work at McDonald's, you lazy F-U-C-K. And then he got some really, really, really shit for that. I don't know if you saw that tweet. I'm trying to pull it up. Man, he's tweeting a lot. Okay, I don't know where that tweet is. Here. So, most people go in when the price is up, but the safest and most profitable moment to buy is when the price is down. It's not rocket science, and that is because he bought or El Salvador bought some Bitcoins. I think it was a bit higher than it is right now, but I mean, obviously, the entire Bitcoin purchase that Bukele made for El Salvador is obviously down. But sure, I mean, time horizon, and I mean, just like many people. And then he says, "So invest a piece of your McDonald's paycheck into Bitcoin. Now go back to flip more burgers, you lazy FUC case." And then obviously massive, massive feedback, obviously from a lot of people who call him a dictator, all the way to like people saying this is really cool. And then others say, yeah, it's very easy for you to like be joking about this because you are not living in poverty. And then he says, want to see the hypocrisy? Look at the one supporting a president who wants to go to war. Obviously, he's referring to Biden with the Ukraine. With all the inflation that sends hundreds into poverty, but they're concerned about McDonald's jokes. What's your take on that? Do you think, obviously, he got criticized for that a president shouldn't be doing this, but then we're totally cheering for him? What's your take on that?
I have to say I'm pro Bukele. I love people that are into memes and that can make jokes. You know, in my opinion, a joke is a joke, and even if it's maybe right there on the line that it triggers certain people, in the end, it's a joke. And I think he leans into this, into the whole space, into the whole memes. He's young. yeah, from personally, I really like that. On the other hand, it's nice to see how these, like say, let's say for him at least, because he's underwater. I saw this chart where all these levels are marked on like where El Salvador's average buy is, where MicroStrategy, Tesla, Block or Square, where they bought in. And I think, not 100% sure, but I think if we would drop to 28K or somewhere around that, every single one of them would be underwater. And I kind of want to see this, that, you know, Elon and Square, Jack Dorsey, and all these people experience to be underwater as a company or as an entity as well. And it would give other companies or other entities the opportunity to buy in even at lower levels than others. So I guess it's kind of interesting to see if we go there or not.
Yeah, interesting take. I mean, I'm very much aware that Bukele is a very controversial person, and I also think some of his tweets are very controversial. Interesting. The question there is a bit on who is he tweeting for here? Is this a bit more the Bitcoin community? Is this a bit more? And at the end, like if you're not in El Salvador, I think it's pretty irrelevant basically what you think about him because I think only people in El Salvador actually have a vote. And again, I'm not that familiar with the El Salvadorian voting system. Maybe there's no direct voting of the president, or maybe there is. I'm not sure. So don't take me like by the word here. But that's always a bit interesting to see. Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I mean, maybe there he did step a bit over the line, just in my opinion, because obviously he does. He is a very different. He has a totally different level of status versus 99.99999% on Twitter. So yeah, sure. But maybe in the larger scheme of things, it's fine. So but I also agree with the being very interesting to see if all these companies are underwater. Also how the shareholders reacting. I think this could be a very powerful statement actually. It was very interesting to seeing that latest Bitcoin spot ETF filing that they got rejected. I can't remember which one this was. I think from Saramucci. They even referenced that Tesla was able not only to buy $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, but also to sell a significant amount without any major issues. So it's the same thing here. Many times when you have this extra pressure, when you go through a bit of a rough patch, it's breaking some, but those that actually make it, they really kind of get kind of pressed to a diamond, and I think that's always interesting to see a bit here. So yeah, I like your scenario here about some companies maybe being underwater and then yeah, proving what they're made of. Yeah. Other than that, interesting day to follow a bit. Nasdaq is opening significantly down, it looks, and but Bitcoin is holding up strong. So maybe today is the day that we are seeing that yeah, that kind of pegging breaking apart a bit. Is this being discussed a lot, I assume, on social media, how stocks are influencing crypto at the moment, the risk on, risk off kind of tendency?
Yeah, definitely. I saw some guys posting 1 minute charts and proving that there is a strong correlation. I think you got other people like Will Clemente, for example, that was the first to share yesterday that there was this decoupling between S&P 500, Nasdaq, and Bitcoin. And of course, it adjusted. Today, it's still to see how the two of them compare to each other and how they perform. But what's interesting to me is, and I would not say that they are decoupling. My take on it would more be that Bitcoin is the first to react and the S&P or the Nasdaq follows. At least that's what I think I saw yesterday. And that would also be pretty interesting. It means that if people are actually willing to take risk, they prefer to go into Bitcoin first before they choose to go into stocks. What would mean to me that Bitcoin could recover a lot faster or a lot harder than a lot of people anticipate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm an investor that's quite well diversified. I come from the very traditional kind of investments. Yeah, I always invested in traditional stocks and real estate and so on. So, like for example, yesterday I thought it was very interesting to look at how at first everything was kind of down, especially in the general markets, but it was not crashing down. When you compare this to actual crashes, so March 2020 with COVID, or you go all the way back to 2008, or even the dot-com, everything was down. Like anything that was not dollars, directly dollars, was significantly down. And that's always like during a crash, everything correlates, right? So everything that kind of has a little bit of risk to it is completely down because fear kind of just goes in. That wasn't really the case yesterday. So what I want to say here is anyone that's like this super conspiracy theorist or like this super doomsday kind of prophet, we did see nothing of that yesterday. Even when like markets for a short period of time were down by like 4%, which is significant, and then they recovered, and then Bitcoin started really shooting. We didn't see any of that. So even any kind of asset-backed securities, any kind of bonds, anything that generally is a bit more resistant, it was not selling off yesterday. So that was in general still a very good sign. So just want to kind of in kind of give a bit of a like where are we in the actual kind of system falling apart. So there was none of that in the general market. So I think participants still have enough liquidity. They are still confident. Obviously, there's still confidence that the Fed is tapering, but it's not totally wrecking that thing. And that's kind of a bit at the moment. Now, I also think that it is fragile. And one thing also to look at, we see some really significant earning reports on the stock side this week. We see Apple, we see Microsoft, we see Tesla. There's quite some important ones. Now, most of these companies, aside of Tesla maybe, but you look at Apple or Microsoft, or Alphabet or Meta or whatever, all their price to earnings is actually relatively reasonable. So that's also important to kind of look when you just always talk about tech. Um, you look at an Apple. I mean, they are definitely not at the same kind of overpriced level as many other tech companies. So it's also a bit tricky. And you didn't see any kind of significant sell-offs in these really, really large caps with massive cash on their balance sheet and their possibility or ability to actually price for inflation. So as a whole, I'm still very, very confident that the system can hold, that it's not really falling apart. I know that some of the super crypto fans, they always feel that they want Wall Street to fall apart. Understand, if Wall Street falls apart, this has massive ripple effects into the crypto space. So I would not be a person that would hope for the traditional markets to fall apart. I just don't think that I think it's a fairy tale that then money flows into an even riskier asset class and an even more volatile asset class rather than not going into the less volatile asset class that is dollars in these super tight scenarios, right? Long term, I think we all agree the dollar is trending to zero, and I think even the Fed knows that, or any dollar fan knows that. But especially the short term volatility, like don't underestimate the threat and the fear that a lot of market participants have there. So I saw that, and that was kind of a good signal at least yesterday. So I think most market participants do not expect massive impact from Ukraine right now or from the Fed tomorrow. So yeah, fingers crossed that this kind of plays out. Anything you saw there, Fabio? Obviously, these are the things I always generally look for to get like a general health check, if you want to call it, of the system. And yeah, that kind of looked okay. But was there anything that you saw?
I trust your knowledge a lot more on general markets. I'm not very into stocks on and or tech stocks or anything. The thing that I kind of would be interested in or to hear you take as well would be a little bit on altcoins. The only thing maybe I want to push in there is that we saw a few interesting things. For our customers, it's always interesting. DFI hold up exceptionally well, while most altcoins lost a lot of ground compared to Bitcoin, especially Solana, that was holding like really well against Bitcoin until at the start of the year, I guess. And I think Dogecoin and Shiba, they are not doing well at all. What's your take when it comes to altcoin?
I mean, in general, I have to admit that I was in general impressed how well altcoins held up. Compare that to 2018. I mean, there was completely a different scenario. Bitcoin definitely outperformed this year so far, like year to date so far. It yeah, I mean, dominance went from close to 39% to now 42%. But keep in mind that this is actually like relatively impressive when you consider how stablecoins obviously work against that. So Bitcoin increasing dominance while prices go down is relatively difficult for Bitcoin because obviously the stablecoins work against that. So that is actually quite a significant increase, probably in total if you calculate by around 10%. So Bitcoin probably outperformed most altcoins by an average of 10%. DeFi chain, as you mentioned, held up insanely well. I mean, Solana had even Sam Bankman-Fried jumped in on Twitter, got some shade on that on Twitter as well. He tried to jump in and explain a bit his thoughts on Solana. As far as I am aware, Solana had some massive network outages, and people were complaining that yeah, they got liquidated because they couldn't kind of deal with the network overload. I am not deep enough in that ecosystem to know. Even though it's definitely going to be an ecosystem that we're going to be looking at later this year to be adding to Cake DeFi, but so far it's been more just on the side, not so much on focus. But so I would understand a bit if maybe Solana is a bit more under pressure. I saw Elon shilling Doge today again to McDonald's, saying he's gonna eat, I think, a burger and fries on national television if McDonald's accepts Doge for any of its products. But in as a whole, I mean, the entire year so far has been about going into less volatile assets, right? So markets always call this risk. So taking basically the risk appetite out. And so for me, this is less volatile assets. And we saw this. I mean, um, gold has done relatively well year to date. Bonds have done okay, not super good, but okay. The dollar obviously did insanely well if you compare it this way. Commodities have done well, and anything that has volatility, risk attached to it did extremely bad. And also in crypto, and Bitcoin is still by far the safest asset. To me, it has the least chance to ever become worthless. I would think that risk with coin is extremely low. And then from that on, all the other coins have an exponentially higher risk of not seeing any value in the long term. Now, again, some coins are very difficult to gauge, but Bitcoin is just so far spread, and it's so widely kind of known and accepted as such a strong brand. And we see this. And again, I still think though, comparing to 2017, 2018, the alts hold up way better than I would have ever expected. So I think even if you're and again, if you look at the 1 year time horizon, I mean, I think still all the top 10 coins have outperformed Bitcoin over a 1 year time horizon. And Bitcoin over a 1 year time horizon is more or less break even, right? It's not much in plus, not much in minus. But Ethereum is like up 100% on an annual basis. I think Binance is up more. Solana, Cardano. I mean, all of these coins are up if you look at it on a 1 year basis. So, but sure, over the last 4 weeks or probably the last 2 months, Bitcoin was the asset to be held in the crypto space.
Does this mean the mega alt season that some of crypto Twitter is talking about is still to come?
I don't know. I posted, I think 2 weeks ago, if you want a Bitcoin season to happen, this generally means that the crypto market is not doing well. And we see this playing out at the moment. As soon as there's risk on, people generally go into the smaller caps and they want to get those returns. The exception is really if there's a very specific reason why Bitcoin itself rallies. And yeah, and we saw that in 2017, specifically around the Bitcoin futures. And we also saw that later on when it was really about the Bitcoin halving in 2020 specifically. But other than that, we have always seen Reddit altcoins rally as soon as people are willing to take risk. And I also think this year, the only way I can see bullish Bitcoin prices and at the same time a Bitcoin season is actually a Bitcoin spot ETF. If the Fed goes bullish again, yes, Bitcoin's going to go up, but I think altcoins are going to outperform. If as soon as we see someone buying up Bitcoin aggressively, but it's more like a signaling effect, it's going to be the same as Tesla did last year. We're still going to see the other coins rallying harder because people are going to want to take more risk. Crypto in general is a risk on kind of asset class. Bitcoin is going to outperform the alts to me, the only case if there's a Bitcoin spot ETF. Otherwise, I would rather think that the altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will outperform as soon as people are rather exiting the crypto space. What we're seeing right now, people are taking money out, and yeah, then generally Bitcoin is the best asset to hold. How do you see that, Fabio?
Yeah, I guess to maybe get a different viewpoint on it, the only thing, if you look at coins like, for example, Ethereum, Cardano, XRP, XLM, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, all of these were top 10 coins in 2017, and none of them managed to break its all-time high compared to Bitcoin. Yes, they did outperform Bitcoin over certain periods of times, especially when you measure the low to the high. But most people actually are not able to buy the low and are not able to sell the high. So I guess it depends a little bit on what time perspectives you look at it. And of course, you have a lot of coins, especially a little bit the newer ones that outperformed Bitcoin by a lot and are still outperforming it. The thing that I talked with a guy on Telegram that is a pretty good trader, and we are talking a lot about his insights. And he's currently on the sidelines, and he's waiting for 30K to heavily go in. And he kind of timed the top this year pretty well. So I'm always interested in his opinion. And what he shared with me today was he said he's expecting a big week still to the downside, so more bloods to come, and then supermoon, so that we kind of go to the 28-ish levels. And from there, that a really big alt season and a really nice bull run will take place. And I kind of like this theory. A little bit more blood in the short term, and in the long run, we're all going to make it, I guess.
I mean, I can buy into that. I made a video this week where I said I would only have 3 reasons why I would worry right now. One is if you use leverage, and I just am not a big leverage fan. One of the reasons why we don't offer leverage on Cake DeFi is because we obviously make money when our customers make money. Once our customers lose money, we don't make any money. So we want you to win. And many times with leverage, obviously you have some people who just really lucky and they win, but then majority, they just lose. And so that is the first reason why I would worry. The second one is if you really need liquidity right now, and I hope that you're only investing into crypto money that you are willing to tie up for a longer period of time. And I mean, again, also customers in Cake DeFi, I think they have a very kind of committed long-term view on things. And the last thing is that you have invested into projects where you're relatively confident over the long term, and you're not so much deterred about the short term. And yeah, I maybe, and to take a step away, right? A good kind of mental game that you can play is imagine you wouldn't know any price at the moment. Like you doesn't matter if it's stocks or bonds or dollars. I mean, dollars is easy; it's always one. But like, just keep this a bit in mind what the dollar could actually stand for, right? Or commodities or precious metals, and then all the various cryptocurrency projects. And then just ask yourself, you kind of have all this idea, like maybe there's a bit of some fear in the market, but at the same time, you know that probably the money printing at some point it's going to start again. You have this kind of strange kind of atmosphere and scene. Without knowing prices, which kind of project would you go into? And if you kind of approach it this way, it's a bit more the Warren Buffett kind of style, right? Warren Buffett always says you don't like invest in things where you don't need to have a daily price. At the end, that's what makes real estate so easy for a lot of people, because they don't get a price every second. They actually only get a price when they actually go out and say, hey, I'm interested in selling. What are the offers out there? Other than that, they don't really get a price. And so if you would approach it this way, you would sit there today and you would probably say, hey, makes a lot of sense what Bitcoin is offering. It makes a lot of sense what Ethereum is offering. It makes a lot of sense what DeFi is offering. It makes a lot of sense what Project XYZ is offering. What this company does. What this does. And you would probably step away a bit from this like constant price movement that at the end is not really healthy from a decision-making standpoint. And especially during times like these, that's the kind of approach that I wanna that I try to take, right? And I can highly recommend that you approach, especially when things get a bit more emotional, that you try to approach it this way as well. And so I can totally see, Fabio, what you're saying here, right? Prices go down, complete like actual blood on the street, people really bleeding, people really suffering. But you just sitting there and like, hey, I don't really look at the price. I don't care about the price. For me, it's all about long-term views here. And yeah, I like this project. And yeah, great. And then I think that is a really key kind of approach. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. And for us, today was a special day. We at Cake, we get our salaries in cryptocurrencies. So me personally, I get my salary in Bitcoin. There's people that are taking it in other currencies like Ethereum or DeFi. And for me, it's always nice if we have a dip, if the prices are a bit lower, because measured in Bitcoin, I get more. And I remember last year in 2021, I was consistently making calculations of, okay, the Bitcoin price is going to be 100K at the end of the year, and then I would get so and so. And as longer as it takes, the the more time we have to accumulate, and for everybody that has a long-term conviction and that is in this for the long run, for 5 years, for 10 years, it's actually kind of nice that the prices are still at the same levels as they were last year. It gives us just more opportunity and more time to accumulate more. So I guess there's a sad eye and a happy eye in all of this.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. I got nothing else to share. I think we discussed everything. We went through all the questions. One maybe final thing from my side, unless you have anything. Look out for the Chinese New Year promo. I hope you're KYC verified. You're gonna love it. I think it's gonna be a very fantastic special goodie for you. Yeah. Anything else, Fabio, you want to share?
Maybe let me do the honors. If you're not a customer yet, please consider signing up. We have you can earn a nice income on the side. We offer a big variety of products, and we have a very helpful team. You can either contact customer support or you can join us on Telegram if you have any questions. And we're looking forward to seeing you there.
Definitely. And hey, your financials are really so hit, and you need to either go back to a job or you're looking for a different job. We are hiring. Go to cakedefi.com/jobs and consider looking into the various positions that we have open. Cool. With that, thanks so much, Fabio. Thanks so much, community and our customers for tuning in. Very much appreciated. Have a nice rest of a Tuesday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, hear you next week. All the best. Thank you, and bye-bye.